Hi, welcome to the Modzy Jupyter Notebook tutorial. My name is Brad Munday and I'm a data scientist here at Modzy. Today, I'm excited to walk you through the process of using Modzy's Python SDK to submit processing requests to the Modzy platform and use some of our really cool models in a Jupyter Notebook, a popular IDE that many data scientists use to integrate data processing, machine learning, and artificial intelligence tasks into their existing applications. To date, the Modzy team has developed plugin API integrations for Microsoft Office, QGIS, and the Apple ecosystem. Additionally, the team has developed software developer kits, also known as SDKs, which are collections of software development tools in one installable package. We currently have SDKs for Python, Java, and JavaScript, and you'll find that these SDKs make leveraging the Modzy API quick and easy. This tutorial will use our Python SDK to demonstrate an implementation of Modzy in a Jupyter Notebook. To follow along with me today, you will need to install a few items. First, you'll need the Modzy Python SDK. Our Python SDK, along with our other SDKs, can be found on our GitHub page on the bottom of the screen. You will need to clone this SDK repository into your environment. The next item you will need is your own Modzy instance and API license key. When you purchase your subscription to Modzy, you will receive your own instance URL and API license key. You will need both of these to use the Python SDK. You will need Python version 3.6 or newer. This tutorial in particular uses Python 3.7 to implement the Modzy Python SDK. To install our Python SDK, you will need to install the pip package manager first. You can find more information about this in the link on the bottom of the screen. And lastly, you will need Jupyter Notebooks. Aside from our Python SDK, Jupyter Notebooks is the primary tool we will use in this tutorial. You can find more installation instructions on the link on the bottom of the screen. In this tutorial, we will cover three main agenda items. First, we will open a notebook and perform some initialization steps. Then, we'll submit some jobs with input data on an open source model available through Modzy. And last, we'll extract the results from the job output into the notebook. Let's get started by making sure our environment is set up and ready to use the Python SDK. First, you will want to open a command line interface or terminal of some sort and navigate to the directory where you are going to open your Jupyter Notebook. This environment should have Jupyter Notebooks, Python at least version 3.6, pip, and Git already installed. When these requirements are satisfied, we can then clone the Python SDK repository, install Modzy, open our notebook, and start using the SDK. In my environment here, I already have all these dependencies installed, so I'm going to start by cloning the SDK from the Modzy GitHub page and install the package. In following the installation instructions on the SDK page on Modzy's GitHub page, I'm going to start by cloning the repository into my environment. With this SDK folder cloned into my environment, I can then pip install the Modzy SDK. As you can see, the SDK is successfully installed, so it looks like I'm ready to open up a new notebook and start using the Modzy platform. In this environment, I have Anaconda installed. As you can see, I'm using an Anaconda command prompt, which means I already have Jupyter Notebooks installed as well. And so since this is pre-installed, I can open a new notebook by simply typing Jupyter Notebook. I'm going to start by opening a new notebook, where it's now time to import Modzy and start using all of its great functionalities. I'll start by importing the Modzy SDK that I've already installed in my environment just a moment ago, and import the Modzy API client and error class. I can do so by using this import statement that allows me to import the API client and the error object. Now, I'm going to define some important variables that will be essential for submitting an API job request. More specifically, I'm going to create a variable to represent my base instance URL and my own personal API access key. You can do the same for your own instance URL and your own personal access key. So first I'm going to define my URL variable. to be my base URL in my own instance. The second variable I'm going to define is my key. It will be my API access key. After defining these variables, I'm now going to authenticate Modzy in this notebook by initializing a client variable, where I will use Modzy's API client that takes two arguments. The first of which is a base URL, the second of which is the API key. This line of code allows me to connect to the Modzy platform, which means I can now use this client variable to query models, submit inference jobs, and return results directly to my notebook. The remainder of this tutorial will focus on submitting job requests to models. We have now successfully completed all initialization required to use Modzy via the Python SDK. It's time to put these models to work and submit some job requests. Before I can submit a job request, I need to determine which model I'm going to use. And to do so, I will navigate to my own personal marketplace in my instance and find a model detail page to gather some information I'll need to submit a job. In this case, I am going to use a sentiment analysis model for this tutorial. And so here you see the model detail page for the sentiment analysis model, which you can find in the marketplace in your own instance. This model takes in text as input and outputs the corresponding expression sentiment along with the prediction probability. So it determines if the text has positive, neutral, or negative sentiment. To use this model and submit a job, and any model for that matter, you need three things. You need the model identifier, the model version, and the input for that particular model. On the model details page, you can find lots of information, but you can find these three down in the how-to section. And so here in the sample API request, you can find the model's identifier, version, and input format. So this model requires that you submit a JSON file with both the input.txt key and the value being the text directly, or a text file, depending on your use case. So I'm now going to use this model identifier and version to create some more variables in my notebook. So I'll start with model ID, and so I can now use these variables when submitting a job. Let's submit a job. Looking at this cell right here, I've wrapped the job request code into a try except block of code to fetch any potential errors that may arise when calling this model. Notice here I'm using the jobs.submitText method, which is one of a few different ways you can submit jobs using our Python SDK. You can learn more about all these different methods on our GitHub page. But what this method allows me to do is specify the model ID I want to use, that model's version, and the input file I want to use. And so because I'm submitting text, what I can do is map the text in a string I'm going to type here to this input name, input.text. So I'm just going to say, I am having so much fun learning about Modzy. And so I'm going to pass this string of text through the model to determine its sentiment. This error object you see here is a built-in functionality of this Python SDK that allows me to look for different error types at different stages of the job request. So let's submit this job. What I can now do is check out what this job object looks like. And you can see all this great information about this job. Which account it came from, the time it was submitted, the job identifier, the input I submitted, the model I used, and a lot of other great pieces of information. When this cell executes, a job has successfully been submitted to the Modzy platform. This means my request for the input data to be processed by the specified model has been received by the platform and the request has been queued. At this point, the Modzy platform will process my request according to the available resources and priorities. To help with interfacing with the platform to retrieve my results, the SDK includes a block until complete function that communicates with the platform and checks on the status of my job until it has completed. The method then returns my results for analysis. To leverage this block until complete method that I will show you in a second, I will place it inside another series of error-catching try-except statements. These different errors that you will see, timeout, network error, and response error, are the three types of errors that could occur during inference. When this cell completes, it means inference has been completed on the platform, and my results are ready to be retrieved. And as you can see, that executed pretty quickly. It is now time to move on to the last step of this tutorial, where we will extract the results from this result object into this editor and see the predictions of Modzy in action. Now that our inference is complete, let's take the results and print them to this notebook. The output for every model is different, but this model in particular returns a JSON file with a probability that the text submitted was either positive, neutral, or negative sentiment text. So let's take a look at our results. This section of code takes the raw result output, this result object right here, a JSON file that looks analogous to the sample API response on the model details page, and extracts the parts of the result that contain the model predictions. As you can see here, the model predicts that there's a 64% chance that the text I submitted was neutral and a 35% chance that it was positive. And we have now successfully used the Python SDK to submit job requests to Modzy. The great thing about using the Python SDK within a Jupyter notebook is that the process is repeatable and scalable. Since the Modzy platform accepts the same inputs for each model, which if you recall are the model identifier, model version, and an input path, submitting job requests for different models is very easy. In this tutorial, we walk through a simple example that just scratches the surface of the possibilities for building Modzy-powered integrations and applications, and bringing AI functionality into your everyday workflows. Thank you for taking the time to learn how to use the Modzy platform in a Jupyter notebook. I would encourage you to check out some of the other resources and how-tos on modzy.com to learn more about our product and how it can accelerate the process for building AI-powered applications. Thank you for watching.